But to have people, leaders stand up in a coalition that crosses party line, a true unity party, it's a beautiful thing. I am so proud to be part of it. I'm so proud to have gone to rescue the Republic and hear these brave leaders stand up and say, I don't care what you say about me. Tulsi's like, I don't care if you hate me, Democrats. Guess what? I'm a Republican now anyway. This is a beautiful movement, and it is the only way that we're going to rescue the Republic. Welcome to Love and Life. I'm Dr. Karen Anderson Abril here with my co-host,
Pastor Elliot Anderson.
And Love and Life is your place to hear conversations grounded in psych research, psychotherapy,
and biblical truth
to help us thrive in love and life. Hey there. So I wanted to hop on and just respond to a couple things that have shown up in the political sphere. You know, this podcast started out as being all about relationships, and it still is. It's just that so much of the political realm has seemed to infiltrate our day-to-day life in ways that it didn't in prior times. As a Gen Xer, I can remember those days. And as Elliot and I always remind you guys when we talk about such issues, our mother is a lifelong Republican. Our father was a lifelong Democrat. And they raised 3 happy, healthy kids. Things are different now. And I just want to share a little bit. People are so polarized, so divided. Times are so divisive. It seems that it's very difficult for people to see the other side and understand where other people are coming from. And I'm going to do that by responding to a couple things that have just appeared recently. We'll start with something that was going rampant yesterday, the fact that Joe Biden called Trump supporters garbage.
They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Now, he was responding to this comedian that was part of the warm-up act for the big Madison Square Gardens rally for Trump, which was portrayed as Hitlerian. It was compared to the Nazi rally in the first part of the 20th century. And commentators said it was a direct parallel. I watched it. It was there was nothing Nazi about it. In fact, many Jewish people were there. But to say that it's a direct parallel, so that means that everyone who's ever performed or had an event at Madison Square Gardens since that time is also a direct parallel to Nazis. The hyperbole is a little out of control. It's dangerous because then people, getting back to my point, where we see things so differently, people will ask me, maybe not directly, but indirectly, how could you vote for Hitler? Because he's been called Hitler. And there have been 2 assassination attempts because, of course, when you continue to portray someone as Hitler, people who are unhinged will go, wow, maybe I would do the world a favor by taking out Hitler. So this is just to the point where it's out of control, and that impacts our relationships. So I do want to respond to the garbage thing, and I'm going to also weave in something that I can't get over. And I sense that people who were not dissident, as I was, and as Elliot was, and Tim actually, and a lot of people who had to coalesce around their dissident stance around COVID. So when Biden called Trump supporters garbage, that didn't surprise me because I've been called a lot by many, many people during the COVID era. We were selfish. We were horrible. We wanted to kill grandmother because we didn't want an experimental product shot into our bodies. That makes all the sense in the world to me as a psychologist, and it's a social scientist, so I'm not trying to act like I'm a bench scientist. I don't have that skill set. But I know enough about research, having written a dissertation, that you would never expect anyone to put anything in their body that hadn't been tested in longitudinal studies for years. However, people were shamed. People lost their jobs. They recommended this for pregnant women with no sense of what that's going to do to the developing baby. For children after 6 months, it's still in the CDC schedule. I could go on and on. My point is, when Joe Biden looked at all of us and said on national TV, that his patience was wearing thin, that it was a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I'm just used to people in authority saying horrible things about me. So for him to call us garbage was not a stretch. It didn't actually even surprise me. And that's a really sad state of affairs. But it also helps, I think, if people can hear this, which I'm sure we can't because we don't have ears to hear the other side so often. I know that I have a sense of feeling defensive about my decision because I was painted as being so selfish for a decision that to me was just logical and rational and a safe choice to not mess with an experimental product, especially being someone who had no risk of having problems with COVID because I don't possess any of these comorbidities. I'm not morbidly obese. I don't have type 2 diabetes. I don't have all these other problems that might encourage one to decide, oh, I think I should try this experimental shot, even though it's not been tested. I didn't fall into that category. In fact, most of us didn't fall into that category. In fact, COVID, although it was portrayed as this very terrifying, going to kill everybody, it killed like 0.02% of the people who got it. It wasn't deadly. It was propagandized as being deadly. But getting back to my point, am I surprised that Joe Biden called Trump followers garbage? No, I'm not. That doesn't surprise me at all. As you know, we've been partnering with the Wellness Company for several months now. And personally, as someone who sadly no longer trusts the vast majority of medical professionals, I am so happy to be able to share the Wellness Company's array of products with the Love and Life community. Dan and I just purchased the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit, which includes vital medications with proven safety profiles like ivermectin, amoxicillin, and Z-Pak. The kit also includes a comprehensive guidebook researched and written by the company's chief medical board, including esteemed doctors who stood up to COVID tyranny, by the way, which is exactly why they've earned our trust. Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Harvey Risch, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and Dr. Paul Alexander, just to name a few. Head over to twc.health/lovelife and enter promo code LOVELIFE, all one word, for 15% off your order. That's twc.health/lovelife and promo code LOVELIFE for 15% off your order. We can take charge of our health, and the Wellness Company is here to help us do it. Let's get to another recent bit of news that's political in nature, but also related to relationships. And this would be the ad that the Harris campaign dropped about how women still have the right to make some decisions on their own.
Your turn, honey.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose. You can vote any way you want. And no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey.
Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls. Vote Common Good is responsible for the contents of this ad.
This was so cringy, I can't even take it. As a married woman who believes in strong marriages and the intimacy therein and how important that is not only for us as individuals, who most of us want to find our person and walk through life with someone, to have her campaign come out and say, ladies, if you need to lie to your bully, boorish, domineering husband who assumes you're going to vote for Trump just like he is, beating his chest, crushing his beer can on his head, where's my sandwich, wife? If you have to lie to him when you get to the ballot box, you just do that. That's a great thing to do. I think that's a horrible message to send anyone. Let's undermine your marriage with lies. Let's undermine your marriage with subterfuge. Let's pretend to be people we aren't. If you're a wife and you want to vote for Harris, have that conversation with your husband. He's man enough to take it, and you should be woman enough to be able to say it. And if you are so oppressed in your marriage, why did you marry this person in the first place, and why are you putting up with it? You know, I'm tired of women playing the victim card when it's convenient for them. I'm a victim. I can't get an abortion. Yeah, you can. There's plenty of, it's in the state's hands now. There are plenty of states that will allow you to kill your child up until the moment of birth. I mean, who knows where this is going? If you want to kill your child, you can do that. A better idea, there's about 17 different ways to not get pregnant in the first place. So women, if you want to own your bodies and own your empowerment, how about you own your decision to not get pregnant in the first place? I'm putting aside the cases that people always love to bring to the conversation about abortion. I'm putting aside rape and incest for the moment. Those are a fraction of the abortions that are committed in America on a daily basis. Also, a fun fact, since the Dobbs overruled Roe v. Wade, since the Dobbs decision, there have been more abortions performed in America than before. So people can get abortions. I don't know why I got into abortion. It just is another example of women playing the victim. And it's really annoying. And as a woman, I find it manipulative, frankly. Oh, let me be the victim when it's convenient for me, when I want to be like, oh, I can't even vote for the person I want to vote for because my husband's so oppressive. Get out of the marriage. Get out of the marriage if it's so oppressive. You can get a divorce too. This is not the Scarlet Letter. This is not the times when women were oppressed. Our grandmothers fought so hard for us to have these rights, and then for us to play the victim, it's despicable. And I'm so not impressed with women who do that. Let's truly be empowered and make decisions and be honest and forthright about our decisions. Let's do that, women, because we can, and stop acting like we can't. So that ad, I just couldn't even stomach it. It was, and for the Harris campaign to put an ad out to support and suggest that a great idea would be for women to not be honest with their husbands. Great plan. Great for marriages, great for families, great for society. Love it. Let's keep going with it. We are thrilled to announce our partnership with Authentixx Athletic Apparel, spelled with 2 X's at the end because it's our XX chromosomes that make us female. And contrary to current belief, no amount of hormones, no number of surgeries can change that. And no female athlete should have to compete against men. But at the moment, this is exactly what's happening in both amateur and professional sports. It's not fair, nor is it safe. Wearing Authentixx lets us take a stand to support and protect female athletes. And I don't think it's hyperbolic to say it, we're protecting the future of womanhood. Authentixx gives 10% of all sales to the Independent Women's Forum, the nonprofit which fights for women's causes, including our right to our own spaces and our right to compete against other women and only other women. Check out Authentixx.com and use promo code LOVELIFE for 10% off your purchase. That's Authentixx.com, AUTHENTIXX.com, and use promo code LOVELIFE, all one word, for 10% off your purchase. And the third point I want to bring up, which just lands this plane. I'm voting for Hitler because, as I mentioned before, I'm not over COVID. You shouldn't be over COVID. No one should be over COVID. The lies, the propaganda, the fact that known therapeutics were called horse paste when Joe Rogan used it. Ivermectin has been on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines, safer than aspirin, safer than Tylenol, has been used, won the Nobel Prize in 2015, has a very robust known safety and efficacy profile. And yet we were encouraged to chuck ivermectin. In fact, doctors who tried to use it oftentimes could not get their prescriptions filled. The pharmacists would not fulfill them. People were fired. Doctors who stood up and said, hey, let's just pump the brakes. Let's have a second opinion here. Fired. They've lost their licenses. This is still going on. The fact that there is less trust in the medical establishment is appropriate. And we should be furious with the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, who have taken profit over people. We do not have regulatory bodies in our country that care about the people, the citizens, the people whose our tax dollars pay for these agencies to protect us, and they do the exact opposite. Some of you may have seen on my Instagram that I went to Battle Creek, Michigan to protest against Kellogg's, which Kellogg's makes Fruit Loops, which shouldn't be eating anyway. But should you choose to eat Fruit Loops, wouldn't it be nice if the Fruit Loop coloring didn't poison you, didn't have known carcinogenic properties, wasn't known to cause ADHD, so that the children who are all hopped up on Fruit Loops go to school and then they can't pay attention. And then, oh, no problem, Big Pharma for the win, come in to save the day, have your child on Ritalin, which then affects their nucleus accumbens. So when they're 28 years old, all they want to do is stay in their parents' basement and play video games. This is literally what's happening in our country. However, Kellogg's is fine to make pure, clean Fruit Loops to send to the UK and to Canada because their regulatory bodies actually make them protect their citizens. This is what's happening. So again, I am voting for Hitler because Hitler has aligned with MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. And there is no one better positioned than Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he has been a dissident from the jump. When mothers came to him begging him, he's busy cleaning up the environment as an environmental lawyer, cleaning up the Hudson River, getting the toxins out of there, including the metals, mercury, aluminum. Mothers are coming to him and saying, hey, but while you clean up the rivers, how about you clean up these vaccines on the CDC childhood schedule? Because my kid was perfectly fine until 18 months when he had his MMR, and now he is banging his head against the wall, flapping his hands, and he lost all his language and doesn't make eye contact anymore, and now he's got autism. This is happening in supposedly the best healthcare system in the world, in supposedly the most developed, richest country in the world. It's pathetic. It is criminal. And Fauci continues to add to the CDC in the COVID jab now being added to the schedule. When I was a child, the CDC had, I don't know, on the childhood vaccine schedule, maybe 5, 6, 7 at the most, from 0 to 18. If you take them all now, you're upwards of 77 shots that your child will get from 0 to 18. By the way, you can't sue the company should your kid come down with autism. Why? Because they're not liable. They have protection based on a 1986 act that was pushed through so that we could, again, our government could protect Pharma because that's who they're interested in protecting. Why? Because Pharma makes massive donations to politicians. Also, they have more lobbyists than Big Oil, 3 times as many lobbyists as Big Oil in Congress, in Washington. My point is, if we are going to get back to a government, which I am a fan of limited government, I'm libertarian more than anything. I want small government, let people be free. But we haven't had free speech in a while, have we? No, because any doctors were censored off social media. They were censored off platforms, as I mentioned earlier. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., within 72 hours of Biden being inaugurated, he started sending messages, emails, letters to social media platforms with a list of people who needed to be silenced, who needed to be censored, who needed to be shadow banned, whose message could not get out there, including RFKJ. He has lawsuits that are going through the courts right now. The First Amendment is the First Amendment because everything else in our supposedly free country, which we are not right now, depends on the First Amendment. People cannot be silenced for having a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion, and doctors were. And in my day growing up, you were supposed to, it was conscientious, it was responsible for you as a patient or for you as a parent taking care of your kids to go get third, fourth, fifth opinions. You don't trust one person. And yet we were all supposed to trust Lord Fauci from on high. What we went through is fundamentally opposed to what we all believed our country was about. Freedom, free speech, MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, Robert F. Kennedy aligning with Trump, Tulsi Gabbard aligning with Trump, dissident biologists, Dr. Brett Weinstein, Heather Heying, lifelong lefties are voting for Trump. Why? Because this coalition bringing together truth tellers, people who are not afraid to be smeared, to have their reputations besmirched. They are not afraid. They are strong. They believe in advocating for the Americans, for the American citizen who has been completely, the heel of the boot has been pushed down on us. Even if you weren't a COVID dissident, this was happening to you and you didn't even know it. These people are standing up to let us know how, for those of you who got caught up in the COVID stuff, the COVIDians, we called you. You called us COVIDiots. Okay, there we go. We've all said mean things to each other. But to have people, leaders stand up in a coalition that crosses party line, a true unity party, It's a beautiful thing. I am so proud to be part of it. I'm so proud to have gone to Rescue the Republic and hear these brave leaders stand up and say, I don't care what you say about me. Tulsi's like, I don't care if you hate me, Democrats. Guess what? I'm a Republican now anyway. This is a beautiful movement, and it is the only way that we're going to rescue the Republic, the only way that we're going to bring back a true freedom to this country, because it has not been free. It's been tyrannical. It's been a totalitarian regime. The donor class is running things. They're paying off the politicians, paying off our regulatory agencies. We are not protected. We are not healthy. We are not safe. So RFKJ's platform, if you haven't listened to his speech when he said he was going to suspend his candidacy and join with Trump, it's a beautiful, I was to tears several times. It's a beautiful expression of the American spirit and the American ethos and belief system that once united us, even if we had different thoughts about how to taxes and so forth, when we still had those common values that my parents possessed when raising us 3 kids. His third part of his platform is peace. We need to stop these never-ending, pointless wars that bring American soldiers home in body bags and in wheelchairs. It is unconscionable that we are funding these proxy wars and then whipping up the propaganda so that people who've never even, they can't even point Ukraine out on a map or like, this is where we should go, and send all kinds of funding where we can't even get help for the people of North Carolina whose houses or homes and communities are decimated by a storm. But Zelensky can keep bringing back bags of our tax dollars to Ukraine. It's out of control. We need free speech, we need health, and we need peace. And that, my friends, is why I'm voting for Hitler.
Love and Life with Dr. Karen and Pastor Elliot is produced by Tim May and executive producer Dr. Karen Anderson-Abel. For more information about Love and Life, please go to loveandlifemedia.com.